Here's something that should bother you more than it does. The most perceptive person you know, the one who reads a room in 3 seconds, who notices the thing nobody says out loud, probably didn't earn that gift in a classroom. They earned it somewhere they'd never want to go back to. The sharpness and the scar are the same thing. We call one a strength and the other a story we don't tell out loud. But what if they were never two separate things at all? You know the feeling I'm talking about. You walk into a place and within seconds you've already mapped it, who's tense, who's pretending, who's about to say something they'll regret. You feel people before they speak. You solve the crisis while everyone else is still panicking. And then later, alone, you wonder why you can never quite switch it off. Why silence feels a little like a threat. Why resting feels like dropping your guard. Everyone calls you wise, intuitive, mature beyond your years. Almost nobody asks what it costs to become that way. 24 centuries ago, a man in Athens said the unexamined life is not worth living. His name was Socrates, and he spent his days asking people questions until their certainties cracked open in their hands. He believed self-knowledge was the highest thing a person could chase. But here's the question he never got to ask, the one I want to leave running in the back of your mind: what happens to someone who didn't choose to examine their life, but was forced to, early, before they had any say in the matter? Is that wisdom? Or is it a wound that learned how to think? Socrates wouldn't hand you the answer. He'd just keep asking until the question started to feel uncomfortable. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to walk you through 7 signs that you carry this kind of intelligence, the kind nobody hands out, the kind life installs whether you wanted it or not. Some of them are going to feel like compliments. One of them, the 7th, won't feel like a compliment at all, and that's the one that explains all the others. Stay with me, because by the time we get there, the question won't be whether you're smart. It'll be something Socrates would have liked a great deal better. The first sign: you read a room before a single word is spoken. You walk in and something in you goes quiet and alert at the very same time. You catch the stiffness in someone's shoulders, the smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes, the half-second pause that tells you 2 people argued before you arrived. People call it intuition. It isn't. It's pattern recognition, built by a brain that once had to know the emotional weather of a room, because the weather decided whether you were safe. Socrates had a name for the quiet inner signal that warned him when something was wrong. He called it his daimonion, a voice that, he said, only ever told him no. Maybe what you carry is a kind of daimonion too. But here's the part worth sitting with. A gift that exists to protect you can also become a leash. If you can never stop reading the room, are you the one reading it, or has it started reading you? The second sign: you feel people before they feel themselves. Someone tells you they're fine and you already know they're not. You sense a friend's mood shift over a text message, in the spaces between the words. You carry other people's weather around in your own chest. And small things, a stranger's kindness, a song, an injustice you'll never personally touch, hit you at a volume the people around you don't seem to hear. Psychologists call part of this hyperempathy, and it tends to grow in someone who once had to track another person's emotions very, very carefully, because that person's mood set the temperature of the entire house. Socrates believed that to truly know another person, you first had to admit how little you know yourself. So ask it plainly. When you feel everyone in the room, whose feelings are you actually carrying, theirs, or an old reflex that learned long ago to put theirs first? The empathy is real. The question is who taught it to you, and whether they ever once taught you to feel your own. The third sign: you get calm at the exact moment everyone else falls apart. The crisis lands, the room tilts, and something in you goes cool and clear and strategic. You don't freeze. You triage. You become the person everyone turns to when it all goes wrong: steady hands, level voice, already 3 moves ahead of the problem. There's a name for this: stress inoculation. Brains that grew up around high-stakes moments get calibrated for them, because chaos wasn't the exception in your story. Chaos was a Tuesday. Socrates faced his own execution calmly, drinking the poison while his friends wept around him, and we've called that courage for 2,000 years. But Socrates chose his composure, on principle, as a free man. Did you ever get to choose yours? Or did you learn, very young, that falling apart was a luxury nobody in your house could afford? And here's the turn. The world is going to keep rewarding you for being unshakable. The quiet danger is that you slowly start to believe you're only worth something when something is on fire. The fourth sign, you cannot stop analyzing why people do what they do. You replay conversations days after they ended. You hunt for the motive underneath the motive. You notice the gap between what someone said and what they actually meant, and once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. While other people take the world at face value, you're quietly running it through a second machine. This is the most Socratic thing about you, and it's also the most exhausting. Socrates spent his whole life refusing easy answers, pulling at loose threads, asking, "But what do you really mean by that?" until either the truth showed itself or the conversation fell apart. He did it out in the marketplace, by choice, for the love of it. You do it inside your own head, on a loop, because somewhere along the way understanding people stopped being curiosity and quietly became survival. So the question gets sharp here. Are you examining the world because you love the truth, the way Socrates claimed to, or because some part of you is still trying to predict the next thing that might hurt you? The fifth sign, you'd rather carry it alone than ask anyone for help. You solve your own problems quietly. You're the one who shows up for everyone and yet somehow never seems to need anyone to show up for you, or at least never lets them see that you do. People admire your independence. What they don't see is how it was built, in a place where leaning on someone felt risky, so being self-sufficient became the safer bet. Competence became your shelter. Now, Socrates was poor on purpose. He owned almost nothing and took a strange pride in needing very little. But notice, he was always surrounded by people, arguing, leaning on each other's minds in the open. There's a real difference between needing little and trusting no one. So here's the quiet question. Is your self-reliance freedom, or is it just a wall with very good manners? The strong, silent version of you got you this far. It may not be the version that carries you the rest of the way. The sixth sign, you trust slowly, but when you finally do, you trust all the way down. Your standard for letting someone in sits higher than most people's, and it isn't cynicism, it's calibration. Your brain learned early that not every friendly signal was a genuine one, so it built filters. And those filters have cost you some connections you might have wanted. But the people who do make it through, those bonds tend to be unusually honest, and very hard to break. Socrates distrusted the crowd and the easy opinion, what the Greeks called doxa, the thing everyone believes simply because everyone else believes it. He wanted to test an idea before he'd ever stand on it. You do exactly that, but with people. You test before you trust. And the question he might press into you is this one: are your filters still protecting you from real danger, or have they started protecting you from the very closeness you keep telling yourself you want? And the seventh sign, the one I promised wouldn't feel like a gift. You can't rest. Real stillness makes you uneasy. When the noise finally dies down and there's nothing left to manage, the mind doesn't relax, it turns inward, and it doesn't always go gently. Quiet feels less like peace and more like a room with the lights switched off. This is the sign that explains every other one, so let me say it plainly. The part of you that reads every room, feels every mood, solves every crisis, and trusts no one too quickly, that part never learned how to stand down. It's still on duty. Right now. Socrates said the unexamined life isn't worth living. But he never once promised that the over-examined mind gets to be at peace. So here's the hardest question on this whole list. If your alertness finally let go, if, for one entire day, nothing inside you was scanning the horizon for a threat, would you feel free? Or would you feel like you'd abandoned your post? Now step all the way back, because there is something much bigger sitting underneath all seven of these. We tend to tell two completely separate stories. One is about damage, what hardship breaks in a person. The other is about strength, what a person manages to make of themselves. And we keep those two stories in different rooms, as though the wound and the wisdom were strangers who'd never met. But they aren't. They never were. The same pressure that hurt you is the very pressure that sharpened you. The brain doesn't get to keep one and refuse the other. There's research on this, they call it post-traumatic growth, and it suggests that a real share of the people who move through something genuinely hard come out the far side with a clarity about what actually matters that most people chase their entire lives and never quite reach. You learn some hard lessons early. Earlier than was ever fair. And here's the reframe Socrates would quietly hand you, the thing that turns this whole conversation over. He never said the examined life makes you happy.